just record. So, hey, everybody, this is Dr. JC, aka The Dragon. And this is another Ayahuasca Integration Mastermind. And we're recording this on a podcast too, so that we'll have an audio version of this just in case something amazing happens. But what we're discussing, the idea behind today, and it may organically turn into something else, and that's fine too. But the idea today is to just talk about, I guess, this idea of taking something that is just dramatically changing so many people's lives and figuring out like what's the right way to pay that forward. I mean, if people, Frank was just talking about the fact that he has a discussion group and there's a lot of interest. I can tell you in my world, millions of people ask me about it. But there's this interesting gap between the curiosity and maybe the beginning phase of the calling and the action step. So what I was just going to say is I remember meeting Melissa and Nicholas first time. I was looking at our text thread and I went all the way up to the top of it the first time you guys reached out to me. And we have a mutual friend that's like, oh, probably heard them talking about their interest in going. And I think you had somehow found Arkana, right? And so this person said, oh, my friend JC has been to that place, and they hooked us up with one another. And I remember having that conversation. They were already all in and they were excited, and it was like perfect timing for them and everything. But at the same time, they had a lot of questions. And it's funny because how do you answer questions about something that makes no sense at all? To somebody that's never experienced it before. And I remember, Frank, when you were about a week out asking questions, and Billy and Jose do such a great job. But you'll see that, like, when Jose answers a question about Arkana or ayahuasca, I have these great questions set up for Jose. Maybe we'll do it some other time and we'll record it. Hey, Demetrius. So
hey, how's it going?
Very good, man. So it's so good to see you. So if you went into, and this is what I did, I went in and I did a search on the most common questions people have about ayahuasca. You can do that with ChatGPT or Google or something like that. And people want to know, what is ayahuasca? People want to know, is it safe? What are the potential benefits for it? A lot of analyzing and, coming from a place of probably a little bit of concern just from not knowing. And then it's the most common question is how do you find the right place to go? So think back to when you guys were in that phase. Those were probably the human mechanical questions you were asking. Am I right?
Yeah.
For the most part. But then there's this other thing, just like we have really 6 senses, we've got our 5 senses, and then we have our 6th sense. There's this other space, I think, and I'd love to hear some people can share about that, with the idea that maybe Jose will show up and we'll run the program as it's supposed to. But what I'd love to hear from some of you is what that was like for you to feel the calling, go through the phase of figuring it out. How did you find your way to Arkana? And then also in that other zone of maybe your intuition and your calling, how did you find your way? Because, I'm looking at Dimitri, just like me. Dimitri came all by himself. That's the way I did it my first time. I didn't have a friend or anything like that, which is a little crazy, Dimitri, if you think about it. I mean, like, if you go in by human terms, it's a little crazy. But he wasn't thinking that. And it turned out to be an amazing thing. So maybe we can start off with you. Is, take us through, because that's the intention, is these amazing souls that are on the outside looking in and they haven't taken that step, or maybe they've gone and done some sort of an ayahuasca experience that is like completely different because it's like their buddy has it going on in their basement or something like that. How did you find your way to not only Arkana, but to making the decision to go by yourself?
So I was at a low point in my life before I went to the Yucatan retreat. Had a serious incident with the police at a party. So it was like I had to really change my life. And I was doing some research online about different retreats. And what really stood out to me about Arkana was a lot of the video testimonies I saw about people specifically talking about Jose. I was really surprised about how they really respected him and how he always had like an authentic experience that I try to cultivate at the retreats. And for me, it was like the best value. So I did like the ayahuasca and the mushrooms and the DMT. So it was like the best investment I could do. Spending 5,000 to change your life, I think it's like the best thing for me.
Yeah.
Best money I spent.
So what you're saying is that you came across some testimonials and you heard people not only talking about Arkana, but also about Jose, that like this guy. And, but at the same time, you were at kind of a crossroads where, like, as you said, you were lost. This is a big part of it.
Yeah.
There's the human nature is that we tend to do things when we're pushed to do things. But if we don't have to do things, that's when we remain in contemplation. I mean, think about that. That's probably unlocking the keys to most of what we struggle with, is if we're contemplating and we're dilly-dallying and procrastinating something, it's typically because you don't have to do it. But the timing issue comes into play for Dimitri, and he says, yeah, I don't want to continue living like this. I need to figure this out. And you were pressed to do it. So your decision was, I'm going to go somewhere. And then you found something that resonated with you, right?
Yeah, it was a calling. And I felt like this is like really my last option. So if this doesn't work out, then I'm really shit out of luck. So like I took a faith and I felt like this was like the best thing that could really help me at that time.
How did it
really
work
worked
out? It worked out?
I think for me, it was just taking a risk like this, like doing something really outside of my path. I never thought in my life I would do ayahuasca. So actually doing something that's really outside of like my culture and my nature, I think that really resonated with me. Like you do something like to really change your life, you gotta do something you're uncomfortable with.
Awesome. And I guess the reason why I'm bringing this up is one of our biggest challenges is we all inherently want to help other people. And that's probably the best part of life. It's not what we do for ourselves, although we have to first do for ourselves in order to be of value to help other people. We always have to start with that. But then we go into this almost hero-like mode where we want to spread love and share and all of that stuff. But we always have to remember these stories of there's a process that people go through. So I think that's in the 7 P's of integration. That's, why they say don't preach, because we can't go out and convince somebody to go do it. So whenever somebody comes up to me and asks me a question, I always bounce back a question and say something like, well, where are you at in your life? And I'll let them talk, and I usually say something like, seems like something you should look further into, I mean, I don't have a reference point other than stories I've heard of other places, but I'm a little bit biased because like, this is the only place I would ever go, whatever. If they come up with some sort of new concept, I'm going to go try that next too. So let's go. I know Melissa and Nicholas have a busy schedule today. So let's go to you guys for next. So you were referred by a friend and you had some experience, as I remember.
Yeah, even better.
What's that?
I was gonna say even better in the synchronistic. We didn't know that you went to the same retreat.
Oh, that's right. That was just a little fringe benefit. But at the same time, when you did find out, you're like, of course he went there because that's where we're going, and that's the universe is taking care of us. Yeah,
that's that sixth sense. Yeah.
But you guys had already had some experience working with medicine. You just had never done ayahuasca.
Yeah,
if I remember.
We live in Oregon, so there's a lot of things available to us. But for my husband had a lot of experience in psychedelics, and so for me, this was kind of like you, Dimitri. It's very, very out there as far as what I resonated with. And I think it had been like 4 years coming before I had, well, no, 3 years when I had heard of it, saw documentaries, and I thought, great for people who need it. that's healing medicine. Wonderful that it's out there, but I was very detached. Like, I'm not broken. I don't have addictions. There's really nothing I would need that for. Let it be for people who need that. And then friends were having ayahuasca visions with me in it and telling me, grandma's calling you. And I was like, what does that mean? So, so there were lots of synchronicities and signs that were pulling me toward it. And then when I started talking to my husband more about it, who introduced me to ayahuasca, we had just intertwined in that phase in our journey. And when I said, I think I'm ready, he looked into a couple retreats. We had seen some celebrity retreats and we're like, oh, that'd be nice. But something about those celebrity retreats didn't feel very, I know this word is used a lot, but authentic and genuine.
Right.
And so we were like, that might be a nice resort type thing, but
Like a facilitation in a sense. There's something.
it didn't call us. So he found Arkana, and as soon as he forwarded over to me, everything just aligned. So
There's a, you know, what's interesting is you guys understand the way social media works. Like, there's this weird thing with this algorithm where if like you just like talk to your husband or wife about something, you start getting emails from this company. Like, you had that weird thing happen before, but that's an actual, there's an agenda and a strategic algorithm out there to capture people until you get it. But I found that this algorithm or this calling from the jungle, like the jungle has an algorithm. You guys know what I'm saying? It's like,
Oh yeah.
oh yeah.
I dilly-dallied as long as I could, but at the same time, I couldn't run from it because it was just there, like in my dreams and everything. So it sounds like you kind of like, you said you guys were intertwined with it, but you got ready. You didn't really even know exactly what it was. Like, they're telling you some grandmother's calling you and you're like, okay, I'm going to go.
Yeah. At that point, you just decide if this is fear on facing whatever issues you know that they're in there and you haven't faced yet, or are you fearing something that's going to hurt your body? And so as soon as you step away from that fear of your biological fear of being in pain or you're going to die, the rest is just your ego. So as soon as we come to that place, and if people are in that mindset, you're facing your ego, whatever it is, whatever you need, whatever is going to be calling you to face, that's what you're going to deal with. And then as soon as they're ready, I think that maybe is when that opens up.
And it's very brave of people who do this solo, because then they truly know that resonates with them in their path. When we went, it was actually unusual to see a couple, because the facilitators were like, are you sure you want to do this as a couple? Because the plant's going to reveal things to you that you may not want to know as a couple.
It's an interesting thing to think about, you know?
And we were prepared for that. We already knew that it aligned with us because we're already energetic. In fact, one of the testimonies, I gave a testimony, and the testimony that Arkana will sometimes pick people to give a testimony about their experience. And I didn't realize, I don't know if Jose's going to jump on here. I don't want to like give away their little secrets, what they do, but if you do give a testimony, they just let you just talk about your experience.
Yeah.
I think I rambled on for 5 minutes, and then they clipped it down to the part that they were like, oh, she's got an ongoing theme here. Mine was safety, apparently. And so what resonated for us with Arkana was safety.
Yeah.
And how they structure it, because you are working in the spirit realm, you're working in all kinds of different realities, and you want to make sure that you are absolutely protected. And the only place we would ever return to, let alone recommend to loved ones or anyone, is Arkana, because of that structure and how safe it is.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The confidence in the family lineage, and you know, and the Shipibo Kanibo family essentially, but the actually people that Jose has felt and brought into that space, that's the confidence you feel, and you feel their strength and their power and the medicine that they work with, and that's actually the biggest thing.
When you feel genuinely safe, secure, and protected, you can truly let go and let the medicine work. And we felt the utmost protection.
Yeah.
This is a really it's almost like safety is achieved through authenticity too. Like you can see that. I was always
Yeah.
scared of the idea because I had some friends that were like, "Hey, I've got this buddy who's a shaman," and I'm like, "How did Charlie become a shaman? Like he wasn't 2 years ago." You know? And they would go, you know, and he would rave about it. He said he was amazing. He was making breakthroughs and everything like that. But I was scared to do something like that. Only because it just didn't seem authentic, you know. But at the same time, and Dimitri probably agree, the idea, I mean, I'm a father, I'm a married man, I'm a father, and I own companies and I've got a lot of responsibility. I was also afraid of, you know, like, am I crazy to go do this thing? Because I remember half of the people that were seeking it out were like really like looking to resolve problems or challenges in their life. Me, I was just looking to expand my mind and see what else is there that I cannot see. So I remember if somebody was listening to this, I remember how many times I second guessed myself, but I was just using my programmed mind that helps me get around in this world, you know, and stay safe. But what I come to learn is that, you know, the best part about the experience is, you know, some people say leave their ego behind, ego death and all of that stuff. I find that I now have shed the part of me that I didn't really need, that was getting in the way, you know, like that no longer applies. So that's awesome. And Nicholas, this was your idea initially? Because I mean, you two have had a profound shift in your life as a result of that, going on that first trip. I mean, you're experiencing, you're doing a different type of experience right now. What are you doing?
We're in the ley lines of New Mexico here at the Aztec site, and tomorrow we'll be doing anyway, we've been working with a lot of different things that have been pulling
just diving into our journey. We've kind of let go of attachments, excuse me, detaching and creating everything that we want to surround ourselves with, and find the energies where we need to expand. Like you said, it's not even a therapy. It's more like just an expansion, you know?
Right.
So yeah,
So
we're creating the life that we love now. So we've sold everything. We're both business owners, but we now have broke out of the constructs of the Pacific Northwest, and now it's just wherever our life is flowing, we're creating that. And it's beautiful because we're meeting incredible like-hearted minds along the way.
Yeah, you can kind of jump into a group and say, this is what we have to teach, this is what we can do, and then you go for it, and then the next step you something else opens up, and it's just kind of one of those, you know, that's kind of where we're trying to live right now. So it's a nice window. So yeah, we were in an art.
If you guys ever have like what is perceived as a bad day, you know, you can always fall back on knowing that you've done something right in attracting each other. I mean, like everybody in the world would be like, how do I find one of those? You know,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We're so grateful, man, and rare to do what you're able to do, and just live it. Just choose what you want to live instead of be subject to it, right?
Correct. Create your life. Not
And
that's so
definitely,
awesome.
definitely, the jungle's helped us get through to that, you know.
Interesting thing about the couples or the marriage, because there, once again, remember, if people are on the outside looking in, they come across good things and negative things. And I don't know about you guys, but I've met people on my trips that it wasn't right for, that left early and things like that. So, you know, there are people out there that are probably feel compelled to tell people it's a bad idea or this is going to happen and all that stuff. You hear all these negative things out there, not through Arkana, but remember, Google has everything. So
Yeah.
I remember one of the thoughts in my mind was because I'm very happily married, and you know, my wife is not into this sort of thing, and she was into supporting me to do it, but she was afraid, and I guess I was curious, is could this, as you said before, unveil something that could destroy our marriage? And I remember the idea that I had was, well, I mean, like if this is if this is what I think it is, and you are the one, I can't imagine a reality where that would happen. I would imagine that the medicine would put an exclamation point on what I think about you and stuff like that. And for me, that's actually what happened. You know, I remember on one of the nights that I had a really good night, you know, like a beautiful night, and there was no struggle and all that stuff. It was all about that. And I was like, wow, I got lucky with this girl, you know? So she was very happy to hear about that, obviously. But this is another concern. So this is one of the big challenges. And that's why I think that this group is so important. Sometimes we hit it right where everybody can show up, and especially our guests that are supposed to run the meeting. But sometimes for whatever reason, I guess it's just supposed to be us here today. But there's a lot of people out there that feel the calling, that want to go, that know it's a good idea intuitively, but are holding back mechanically because they're so tethered to the ideas that their mother, father, teacher, preacher told them. So I get it. And that's why we would never want to push somebody to do it.
I hear the most. It seems like, am I going to come back crazy, you know, or am I going to have to?
If you're lucky, that's what I say. If you're lucky.
So that's it. If you choose authenticity, that's like anything that's going to be stripped away is just going to reveal your most authentic piece of you. And if that's something to do with your relationship or things, emotions you're hiding or things you're not fully expanding and feel in your love life or whatever your relationships are, it's going to be exposed. And if you're willing to be authentic to live that, then that's what's going to happen, you know, whether it's good or bad. We've seen both. We've seen, you know, it go both ways with couples.
I had a friend that was asking questions like, am I going to go crazy? And I said, and I knew the answer to this because I know this guy. I said to him, I go, do you ever catch yourself being full of shit? And he's like, of course. And I'm like, well, you'll get rid of that over there. So I don't know what will be left. I don't know if you want to get rid of that, but that's what'll happen is your bullshit will be stripped from you. So if you like that idea, you might want to look further into it.
It's true. Maybe we're less interesting to talk to because all we know is what's in front of our face.
Sounds boring on the on Instagram, right? Awesome. Well, if you guys can hang out. If you guys have to go,
thank you.
We'll continue with this. Just hang out with each other, and we'll make another attempt at having this extravagant information center with Jose. And there was a lot of things planned for today, and not one of them happened. So we're supposed to be together. So
you see Billy and Jose, tell them we love them. We're with,
we will. And let us
Maria
know how that experience went.
Okay, and just to let you guys know, I don't know how you intertwine all of this, JC, but Nicholas and I love sharing our experience, not preaching, absolutely sharing if people are ever interested in just being able to help anybody if they have questions. So feel free to connect anyone with us if you'd like, because our path is definitely to help heal. And if that's just answering questions and bringing ease to some folks, then we're absolutely willing and here.
Yeah, friends and family. Everybody, thank you so much.
This we know about you.
You guys are all brave for those of you who haven't experienced or are curious. So just enjoy the journey.
So who would like to share a little bit about your story next? You know, because I think that this would be fun for everyone to share, but also if somebody watches this video or listens to the podcast version of it, this is probably even more valuable than just answering what is ayahuasca and all of that stuff is hearing. So we heard from Melissa and Nicholas. Okay, there she is, Joni. I just made you put your hand up with my mind, by the way. Go ahead.
I know you did. I had, of course, all of the, and not to downplay it or anything, but I did have some traumas
Right.
to work through and everything. And I had been researching ayahuasca for years, actually, before I actually went on my first retreat, which I actually went on my own to the jungle back in March. And the way I found Arkana, it actually boiled down to a couple different centers that I was looking into. One was kind of a bougie one, and then one was Arkana in the jungle. And I chose Arkana, yeah, because of it just seemed more authentic. It seemed like I just wanted that raw, authentic, almost I'm gonna say it just because this is my experience, but I wanted that kind of like feeling of not, I don't want to say, okay, I want to say danger. Like I wanted to be in that kind of like unfamiliar setting that was completely far removed from anything I had ever experienced before in my entire life. That's just me though. So that's why I chose the jungle. And it was the best decision ever that I've ever made. I can't imagine doing any of this with, any other company or with any other group of people such as yourselves. And it really did change my life. As some of you know, like it drastically changed my life, like forever. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really happy about that. And yeah, that's just my story. Obviously, it's a process, but it did remove all, or most, if not all, no, I can't say all, but it removed, my whole experience removed the BS, the things that were not in alignment with me. And another thing too is because I had already known that I was going to do something like this at some point, what I had been waiting for, and the reason why I just did it in March, I booked it in December of 2023. And I had asked the universe, I had asked, for one particular sign to let me know that it was the right time, and that it was the right decision. And I just asked for one particular sign, and it was that the entire process would come to me with ease, that it would happen with just incredible ease. And the universe actually since then has not stopped showing me everything that's happening with ease. And so that's why I know that I'm on the right path now, and it was the right choice to choose Arkana, to choose the jungle, to choose ayahuasca, to choose myself.
Explain what you mean. I think I know what you're talking about, but what do you mean when you say things are being like unveiled to you with ease? Are you saying that life makes more sense to you and it's not complicated? What do you mean by that?
I mean, like, I all of a sudden had more than enough money to make this happen. My plane situations, like booking my flights, booking my hotels,
Okay.
everything, every single aspect of booking that trip up until the trip and following after the trip, with my choices, as far as leaving my job to come work for Arkana, everything has happened with such incredible ease that there could be no other choice for me.
Okay. So this is what's really fascinating, because like everybody would love to be like, yeah, I'll take some of that. I would love my life to unfold with ease. Is the universe providing that for you, or have you just gotten rid of the complicated nature of your decision-making
Right.
process?
I think about that as well. About, the fact that the experience that I went through did help me to remove and help me like step out of my own way, for sure. Because I know it's very clear that a lot of the struggles that I had been dealing with were definitely my own doing.
Right.
So yeah, just the awareness of everything is one big takeaway. I did invite some people to come join this meeting. I really hope that they show up. Who knows? But they've also been very curious about Arkana and love everything that I talk about. And so hopefully one day when it's ready for them and when they, when they feel that they can step out of their own ways, if that's what they're dealing with, then it'll be there for them. So
I think it's important to recognize, because if I had never done this before and I just heard you speak, part of me would be like, wow, that sounds so nice. But I would also probably be forced to think that you're a little crazy, right? I would be like, oh man, I heard this girl talk. She's got to be out of her mind.
that's because I'm one of the lucky ones.
Exactly. Here's to the crazy ones. I love that. We're just starting a new trend there. But what's interesting about it is that there's two ends to the peering in. And I think people would be forced, if you're still in your way. I mean, nobody's like going to acknowledge that the reason why their plane booking yesterday didn't work was their fault. Because remember, everybody is looking at the world as happening to them, right? And we go on this trip, and all of a sudden something's stripped away, and there's a lot of mental breakdown. People will be like, "Oh, what do you got to do drugs to get out of your own way?" Like, there's so many different things going on. So
Yeah.
I just want to highlight how incredibly brave you are, or anybody that took that step into the complete unknown.
Yeah.
Like Dimitri as well, like I remember when I first met you, Dimitri, I just remember whenever I see somebody come to one of these trips for the first time, I'm just so full of respect for them for doing something that is not even measurable. How few people would do that in the world. So I take that and I always say to myself, don't expect who you're talking to be that brave right now. Like, something has to align in their lives, whether it's a crossroads or some sort of fierce urgency of now. I mean, you talk to somebody like Greer, who's been, how many times have you gone to an Arkana event? I know that they're all broken up, but so she's been to 5, right? So just imagine how many times she's drinking ayahuasca and all that stuff. So this complete uncomfortable zone is her new normal. Like, Greer, you probably sometimes feel like abnormal out here and you want to go back in, right? So, but that's very, very different than what's going on in the world. So whenever I hear somebody even say, hey, I want to explore it and learn about it, I just tell them how impressed I am that they're stepping outside of their box to even look. Like, if somebody does watch this video or come to one of our meetings, even if they don't end up going, that's a very special individual. So that's another way of looking at it, is like, if somebody asks us about it, I think that they should just be celebrated. Most people would just close off to it. They're just too busy with the political race or something like that right now. So Greer, do you want to share? I mean, like, I've only done 3 trips. I'm just thinking, like, and I'm going to probably go on my 4th. I think I'm going to go in December. But what about what initially brought you there to it?
So my internet has been terrible. So can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Well, we did.
Okay.
It was going great.
You did? Okay.
But you know what you can do, Greer, is we won't be able to see your
Well,
pretty face, but turn your video
yeah.
off, and usually that makes your audio work. Try it. Or maybe we should have Joni tell you to do it, and it'll happen with ease. Yeah.
I could hear her fine. I think she start talking maybe.
She might be talking actually.
Yeah, let's see.
Right now, and we just can't hear her. All right, she'll figure it out. But we got a great frozen picture of her. She looks very pretty right now. So Luna,
Come on.
let's hear from you. What's your story?
Oh, wow. First of all, I want to say please forgive me because sometimes bring me back to space because I tend to
Let's see if
rumble
that
a
works.
lot.
Oh, it's gonna keep. Mm.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Greer, are you there? Yeah, she's got a bad connection. Go ahead, Luna.
I know I'm here. It's like, okay, hold
We'll do it the
on.
next time.
So
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can. You give it a shot. Isn't it funny? It's
I don't
such
know
a
if that's in
human,
norms the other
it's
day.
human nature to just keep trying. We just keep trying. Even when we see that something just doesn't work, let's try it one more time. So Greer, I think that you just have a bad connection. So we'll save it for next month. Go ahead, Luna.
I just wanted to say I ramble a lot. English is not my first language, but so please, help me
speak
out
great
if you can. Thank you. For me, ayahuasca, the way it started, it was back in 2018, and it was one of those things. I was watching YouTube, and I saw a video talking about ayahuasca, and it just sparked my curiosity. And I watched it, and then I said, okay, let me just search it now. So I searched it, and I heard a story about someone, and then I saw a documentary. I immediately decided that I wanted to do it. So I planned my trip. I went back to work and I said, okay, I'm going on vacation now. So I planned my trip, and I was meant to go to another place. And I don't know how I came across Arkana. I don't remember, but I ended up talking to Jose on the phone. And I was like, I mean, I just call Arkana, I guess. And I started talking to this person on the line. And little did I know it was Jose on the line. He was super kind. He made my trip actually happen because there was no more space in it. And like Johnny wanted to go to the jungle, but I'm not that brave. So I said, who's it? I wanted to go to the one in Cusco. And he said, I'm gonna try. If there is any space, I'm gonna let you know. So, as she was saying, things start falling into place and everything happened so smoothly. So I ended up being at Arkana. And it was the most, unbelievable experience for me. It was super interesting because, one of those things I think we did 3 ayahuascas and 1 San Pedro. And the first ayahuasca that I did, I was just sitting there. Nothing happened to me. It was just, I was like, did I come here for this? Was this that what I was looking for? So nothing happened. I was watching everybody else having their experience. And then nothing happened, not a headache, nothing. I didn't went to my room because I was afraid to go. And so I just stayed there and view everyone doing their experience. And in the morning, we started sharing. I said, I have nothing to share. And I said, how come? And I said, so I decided to do the second one. And it was, basically for me, I left Arkana with a knowing about the plant, that it's not a drug. It's not, for me, it was medicine. I saw it happening to everybody else. And, I like to listen a lot to people's experiences. And it's definitely not a drug. But that's the thing. For me, one of the things that I sensed was fear. Is that even though I knew that I wanted to go, the fear was there because, I'm a single woman going by myself, but I was brave enough to do that. And Arkana for me gave, I was lucky enough to be at Arkana because I felt safe the whole time. And I think it's important to have a safe space to do that. And it was a great experience for everyone in the trip, just because we were all happy and I was there by myself. I've left the place with like 10 friends. So it was absolutely beautiful. But one of the things that is most important, because some of us, I think we all forget that we are spiritual. And I think everybody knows that Arkana, we all humans know that Arkana, that means that ayahuasca, not Arkana, ayahuasca is a medicine, it's medicine. We all know that because we trust the medicine that we take here, from the pharmacists. For example, like aspirin, the story about aspirin, we all know is like from Berkeley, I think, that story about how they created it. So we all know that it's medicine, plant medicine is medicine. It's not having a trip, So, but what we forget is that we all have clear that we're spiritual beings, because although we forget that, that's what we are. So, I don't know. I just feel that we're just like busy, our business of being human make us forget. And I think ayahuasca, what it does is shows us that part of who we are. It shows us that part that we're struggling with as a medicine, for us to start moving in the right direction. That's the way that I see ayahuasca. And that's the way it actually happened for me. She showed me in my experience a little bit of who I was, a little bit of where I needed to go. And it took me there. After 2 years, I experienced it since I was there. It left me with a feeling that I disregarded even after I left. And then, I kept my meditation practice. And during that, even took 2 years after for me to fully awake, in a sense. I call it awake because everybody says awake. But for me, just experience and a little remembering of who we truly are. That's what ayahuasca did for me.
You are so delicious the way you just explained that. It's just like, I mean, I hear people talk about this stuff all the time, and here you are, you're like, sorry, I don't speak great English. And then you just like shared. What I love about what you said is that, and this is another reason why it's such a struggle for people to find their way to it, is you just, first of all, a lot of humans, there's, as you said, they're so busy being humans that they forgot that they're spiritual beings, or they might not have ever even known it. And you also reminded, there's this fear that some people have of drinking the brew or of taking sapo because they're looking at it as some sort of mind-altering drug. But if you took it as if it was medicine and it had an intention to do something for it, it's actually a great headspace to go do plant medicine. We're all a little bit jaded because we've done it, but you should be a spokesperson for Arkana. No, I mean, really, it was just so beautiful the way you shared that. It's just so simple. One of the things that I very often do in my podcast is I say, welcome to the uprising of the sleepwalking masses. Right. And I love to think that all human beings have this great potential in them, but they have to be awakened. So I always looked at the medicine as something that guided us to that awakening, to not something outside of ourselves, but to awakening to who we actually are. So if you guys think about it, this is a really interesting thing. And Billy speaks so wisely about this stuff, but we've got, most of you guys have tried sapo, right? If you think about it, when you're experiencing sapo, it's not really you that's there. It's, everything that you are focused on when you're busy being a human, as Luna says, is not really part of the equation when you're on sapo, right? So if you think about a human being that has had everything human stripped away from it, and you look at, and by the way, I achieved this with transcendental meditation. I've gone deep into that. If you strip everything away and you're just in this place of the nothingness of, say, your soul, you only see one thing that's left over, and that's this idea of love. So, it's great. I really got a lot out of what you just said. Thank you for that. I see it. Hey, Ty, what's up? Ty, you look like you're on like a safari or something. Like, so you going through the desert in a Jeep right now or something?
Yeah, it kind of looks like it. No, just on my way to a little gathering and get to be with some community within my community. So just
Ty,
gonna go see some pretty faces and stuff.
we had all these plans for today, and so Jose and Billy, I still don't know what happened, but they couldn't make it. We were gonna have a shaman here, it was gonna be this whole thing, but we'll do it again. But what we decided to do is shift gears and just allow people, just in case somebody is checking out Arkana and looking at retreats and stuff, just going around the room and allowing people to share their first experience. So I know that you've had a profound shift in your life, but how did you find your way to it first? And what was that like for you?
Yeah, even from judging a book by its cover, got a full bodysuit of tattoos, and I look the way that I do. There's a lot of assumptions of what my background is and what I've done, but oddly enough, I rarely ever drank. I tried cannabis 2 times, and then I found myself in Peru. And what led me there was actually an experience that I had with cannabis. I never really dabbled with it. I had a gummy before, and then about 2 months later, get handed a pre-roll, and all I knew was just like a gummy, you eat it. I thought someone hands you a pre-roll, you smoke the pre-roll. So when they went to go grab it from me and they realized it was gone, they're like, oh wow, you did all of that? And I didn't know what was about to happen. And that's when I had my first ever separation of self and went into vision, which was wildly terrifying, especially whenever you're dabbling in plant medicine with no intention and have no idea what can happen. That's a very scary place to be in, but a hell of a lesson that I received. For me, my background is just full of trauma and extreme traumas, and ultimately the thing that I just never really healed from, and this was 8 years after, but my little brother and I, best friends, I was 25, he was 23, we get to a single car accident, he gets ejected, and I end up performing CPR on him for almost 4 hours straight in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico. And this PTSD and trauma that occurred with that was something that turned me into a shell of myself. And though I had, in those 8 years, found myself still becoming successful in our society's eyes, I have the $1 million house and the wife that you dream of, and my dream classic, 1969 Chevelle. Everything about this showed that I was doing life right and I was crushing it. However, this vision showed me through my own 13-year-old perspective of what I was really looking at, and that was, lack of a better term, one of the biggest losers I've ever seen in my entire life. 13-year-old me just destroying 33-year-old me at this time. Like, you think you know it all, yet you are one of the saddest people I've ever seen in my entire life. Why would I ever want to become that? You think because you got this and that somehow that means that you were happy, that you're successful. Yet I was so broken, I couldn't still figure out why. And what happened in that unintentional cannabis journey was I ended up meeting with my brother. First time that's ever happened since his death. And I ended up reliving him dying in my arms over thousands of times over an 8-hour period. When I come out of that journey, when I tell you that I am so shell-shocked and broken, I was already really suicidal at this point. And the idea that I would have to start over like it just happened seconds ago was enough for me to think that it's time for me to throw the towel in. And so broken from that moment, maybe for the first time ever, the algorithm on my cell phone works in my favor. And it hears that journey that just went on for the last 8 hours. Here's the conversation I have with my mother, who's also in healthcare. She's trying to find the best doctors and psychologists to meet with me and get my hormones balanced. But my cell phone shows me this thing on my feed, and it's of this Indian guru that's doing a Q&A with thousands of people. And the girl asked a very simple question, what do you do whenever someone comes to you and talks to you about having a bad trip with plant medicine? And at that time, I never heard of the term plant medicine, but I was intrigued. And so when he gets the mic, he then immediately goes into this metaphor. He goes, what I like to tell people is, one, we got to be very careful with the language that we use. You mentioned bad trip. Whenever we're going on a trip, typically that's somebody that's trying to exit whatever they're currently feeling right now, or they're trying to increase some sensation, whether it be flavors of food or make the beat drop harder in a song. If you have intention and you're actually trying to work on yourself, then let's switch the language from trip to a journey. And then the other word you used was bad. And this is very common that us humans, we want to label things good, bad, and different. Let's just throw that out altogether, that this is just a journey, and this is about self-introspection and finding out who you are. But with that being said, if you go and buy a ticket to a comedy film and then the film makes you laugh, you expected that. Same thing with a horror film. You buy a ticket for a horror film, and when that guy comes across the screen and stabs somebody, you don't inherently feel like you're the next and you go running out of the theater. You realize that there's no physical harm coming towards you, that you're actually still safe. Well, when we go into intentional plant medicine journeys, it's very much the same thing, except we don't know what ticket we bought. And sometimes it can be both. Sometimes it can be the comedy and it can be the horror film. But typically the things that we would label as bad is something that we experienced in our lifetime that we never wanted to experience again. However, what I would ask you to do instead is, just like the horror film, let whatever that is, that bad experience, wash over you. Understand there's no physical harm coming towards you, and realize that it is your subconscious providing you a gift, something that you have pushed so far in the back that you have not dealt with, that it will give you in chronological order of what you need to work on so that you can move forward with the next lesson. So whenever that happens, then you realize anything that happens in regards to a bad trip, it ends up being one of the most beautiful gifts you can receive, because it says this is what you need to work on. And so what I realized is my whole life I was taught that time heals all, but then I found out in my 30s that that's not true at all. It just helps us push it in the back so that we can survive in the current moment, so that we can continue with our life. However, because I've been granted this gift now, I realized that there has been this line in the sand drawn, and that I have been surviving up until this point, but now I've been given the opportunity to step across it and go learn to not only survive, but step into uncertainty and learn how to thrive. And so as I get a little bit deeper into that, I start researching more and more. Now, all of a sudden, my feed starts sending me all these podcasts that I never heard of. I started intentionally listening to those. And then I hear for the first time in my life the word ayahuasca. It piques major interest. The way that these men and women are describing it, it is a 180 difference in their life. They change, and half of these people quit their job because they are like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm like, this is something powerful. I need to do some more research into it. So I do. And I've come across a YouTube video, and it just happens to be a guy that goes to Arkana, and he has an extremely similar story to mine, losing a little brother. I see in this guy's eyes how broken he is. I've never resonated with another human being more in my entire life. I'm like, I don't know who else I can talk to about this, but you get it. You were so broken, and I'm so broken too. And I pray that if I finish this video, something happens for you, that maybe there's a chance for me. So I see this guy go in, he records before and after ceremony. First ceremony, he goes in, nothing happens. He's frustrated. He talks about the severe, chronic back pain that he has. I'm like, I have that. We're exactly the same guy. Like, we're living the same time on what's going on. He goes, well, in the second ceremony, I'm going to surrender everything. I'm going to do exactly to the T what the shaman asked me to do, what the facilitators asked me to do. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do the flower baths. I'm going to have intention and journal the entire day going into that second ceremony. And so he does. And then the next time you see this guy on film, he is smiling ear to ear. He looks 7 years younger. His shoulders have dropped about 3 inches. He's not looked this relaxed probably in the last 10 years. And I realized in that moment, this is not just a guy who's high. There has been some type of transformation. And in that moment, I knew I'm all in. But I also knew I wasn't ready. I haven't done enough research. I've only tried cannabis twice in my life. Who's to say that I'm ready to go into Peru as this white boy from Oklahoma, USA, that doesn't know jack about nothing? So I intentionally set it out a year and a half out. And then every day I made a personal promise to myself that every day I would intentionally learn some type of new modality and coping skill and work on my spirituality. I went into atheism by accident. It was not a choice. It was something that I continued to find myself fall into. I had all the questions. I never searched for the answers. And eventually I let that ruminate in my mind until I believed the falsehoods that there is no point to this life and there is no God. But then over that year and a half, I start learning about cold plunges, meditation, yoga, breath work, running. I start doing all the things that my body's so uncomfortable with doing, but I start to have this growth. I start to overcome this 300 flashbacks a day that I've been having for the last 8 years. Something's changing inside of me, that there is a power within myself, that we have the tools, the capabilities to do so right here. What else is there for me? And by the time I got to Arkana and I'm sitting in front of the 7 shaman, as you guys know, they ask those triggering questions. You hear for addiction, sexual abuse, trauma, loss. And I told them, so if you would have asked me a year and a half ago, I would have told you I was here for the loss of my brother. However, over the last year and a half, I know that I am making changes and I'm making up ground substantially. I'm somewhere between 95 and 100% healed because I haven't had a flashback or a tick in the last 6 to 7 months. And when I think of my brother, I don't get full of sorrow. In fact, I'm full of happiness and gratitude that I got to be in that boy's life as long as I did and got to enjoy and learn from him on what it's like to truly live life without expectation, live life with pure love and curiosity. But here I find myself in Peru with you and this ancient medicine and wisdom, that I get to be a humble student and have whatever lessons are presented to me, the opportunity to learn it, that I never thought I would ever get to do so in my entire life. And then I go into those ceremonies. The first one was wild. I end up dying 6 times, 6 different ways. I remember coming out of that wide-eyed and everyone's talking, I saw some fractals and some equations. I can't wait to figure out what that means. And they see me, there's ghost faced. What happened with you, Ty? And man, I told them, I died 6 times. I don't think I could do this anymore. I'm drenched in sweat. I am so worn out. I don't think I can go any further. Whatever that was, it was beautiful, but it was also the most painful thing I've ever done in my entire life. And I think it might have been Billy, but there was a facilitator there that said exactly what I needed to hear in that moment, put a hand on my shoulder with a smile and said, congratulations. I can't wait to see what happens in the next ceremony. And that gave me a glimpse of opportunity and hope that there was something else outside of just this experience. And that second ceremony, when I tell you every question I've ever had in my entire life since being on this earth was answered in the second ceremony, it's something that no one can take from you. You get to physically feel it, taste it, be a part of it, feel the oneness, the unconditional love, and then have the opportunity to go into a bufo a day later and experience what that was like. Man, I tell everybody, you go into that jungle and you will not come back out the same. And that's been the case for me for the rest of my life. I'm now 2 years out and still integrating every single day, still new lessons coming every single day. and so grateful that we get to partake this amazing ancient wisdom and medicine from the shaman that typically wasn't even allowed within their own village. It was just for the shaman. And here now we have the opportunity to experience it with them, to see what they got to see. How lucky are we? How abundant is the life that we live right now, that we have the tools and this access to it, and have some place like Arkana that does it with such amazing generosity, being genuine and authentic, true to the medicine. How lucky are we? That's pretty much it.
Wow. Very, very beautiful share. So many different things in there. One of the, by the way, you made up a new word in my mind. You were just talking about when you moved from surviving, to thriving. So the new word is thrivival.
I love I love it.
And thank you so much for sharing, so deeply about that. By the way, I just got a text from Jose saying, I thought it was at 4 p.m. Peru time. We went over that 20 times. Anyway, he might pop in here now. But another thing, what was interesting is when you set the date, and this is another thing that a lot of people contemplate is, when am I going to go? It's like you pull the trigger and you set the date and you put the down payment or whatever, but when do I have the urgency to go right now? Or am I going to put it off a little bit? Typically, so I have maybe hidden in my mind some time to get the hell out of it one day, but then you had this idea of putting it far off and then going to work on yourself. And what's interesting is, and I think everybody here would agree that has experienced medicine, is the medicine starts to work the moment you decide to go. I mean, I wonder if you would have done all of that work and found your way to all of those amazing modalities and the ice plunge and all of that stuff, had you not committed yourself to this complete uncertainty and unknown. And then it seems like when you got there, and by the way, I would love to have you on my podcast sometime, because our stories are very similar, by the way. But there's this other piece of it, is that you realize, like, you prepped for this more than anyone in the world could prep for this thing, right? And you watched the video and you got ready. But when you got there, you realized that you had no idea what it was going to teach you. It's like maybe you were almost like too prepped, and that first night you had to be stripped of your prep work or something like that. I don't know. But that's
Lots
beautiful.
of spiritual egos that kept showing up.
I have a question for you, though, because another very popular question is wait, let me just see what Jose is saying. Apologize. It's so funny. Jose, he'll watch this video. We're still here. He always says, I'm so sorry, I had to deal with some guests here. It's like, I don't know, where's here, right? But I understand. My question to you, Ty, a lot of people, and this is a very interesting topic for me right now, because I'm going to go back, but I've done so much work on myself. I'm certified in transcendental meditation, and I'm deep into my integration work right now, and I'm like really, really in a good place. What is your strategy post that event and where you're at in your life as far as using plant medicine?
Yeah, I'm in that interesting realm where I didn't dabble with many psychedelics before that, other than that one time
Right.
with cannabis, which I didn't even know was a psychedelic at the time. So since then, sure, my curiosity has skyrocketed. I wanted to know if there was an opportunity for me to still enter into that spiritual realm. So since then, I have done psilocybin ceremonies. Of course, I went back into the cannabis ceremony to make sure that didn't control my life. I wanted to go and take that power back. So I went back into that, and that's a whole nother story that we can share in the podcast. and then most recently ketamine experience too. And the goal here, and what I've realized now, especially through some psilocybin ceremony, is that I really felt that there's no need for me to go back right now. I don't know if there'll ever be a need for me to go back. However, I was humbled in this psilocybin ceremony and said basically incredible knowledge and wisdom that was provided was, you healed the most traumatic part of your entire life.
Mhm.
Do you think that's all there is to
Yeah,
you?
that's what I was thinking.
There's all of these small intricacies now.
Yeah,
Now you have the
maybe now
opportunity to
you
go
can
work on the small
you can
things.
actually do the work now because all that shit is gone.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Exactly. So it's all fine tuning now. I've been fine tuning over the last 2 years of my integration, and in that psilocybin ceremony, it was giving me the call to go back into the Amazon, and it potentially may happen this October with my wife.
Oh,
She has
wow.
now gotten the call, and to witness, I had about 4 or 5 couples in my circle when I went, and I know envy can steal some joy, but boy, was I envious of seeing these couples
Yeah.
hold each other and connect the way that they did. Though I connected with my wife in the spiritual realm while I was out there, there was just something so beautiful to watch this embrace happen, and that these two really put everything out there and gave themselves like the best opportunity and shot to come out of it a better version. And I just got done talking with one of those couples yesterday. They gave me a call, and we just had a nice little back and forth update of what's going on in our lives. And it's just so, and that couple probably was the one that needed like the most work and help. Military background, I can only imagine what they experienced. They really suppressed a lot of the emotion throughout the entire week until that final ceremony, and it was like groundbreaking. And they are both now getting certified as energy healers right now. And this is what I'm talking about when I say like there's this 180 that happens where people just drop everything and just go because they get given their new purpose, the divine purpose, and they're running towards it. And I'm very much the same way, that I've now received a divine purpose myself. And once I get my companies all finished up, I cannot wait to step into that new future as well.
Yeah, if I was gonna, so I'm 53 years old, and somehow the universal intelligence has guided me to create passive income. If I was going to give like an ayahuasca business seminar, I would tell you guys to all figure out ways to make money so you could go play. Because if you're tethered to a 9 to 5, you're going to be missing out on a lot of stuff. So maybe set that as a new goal. So there's so many. I want to just end this because it's Saturday, and although we love hanging out with each other, first I want to say how this was completely the opposite of what we had intended this to be today, but it was perfect. So I want to thank you guys for being part of this today. As fate would have it, it was us, and I know some people here didn't chime in and put their video on, but you're awesome too. You were part of this somehow. So thank you guys for that. I don't know how that happens, but I'm going to dig deeper. I'm going to find out more about you guys here. But I think that one of the most important things that part of the integration process, and for somebody listening to this from the outside, another thing that makes Arkana very special is that, and that's what I'm here for. Arkana is very, very, very much serious and focused on the after work, which is most of the work. It's like we get exposed to something over there, but I would assume that most people look at that as an experience and don't capture it like Luna did, and make that massive distinction. And that's why I know a lot of people that do ayahuasca like often, and I'm like, how's that possible? Like if they just keep going back, something's being missed, not that I'm saying that's bad, but I can just tell that they're just keep seeking for something, rather than having an experience like you. So I think that the most valuable thing that I have gotten from Arkana is the people. and having the ability to just be around. I mean, Dimitri and Greer has been initiated into our group. We have an amazing group that just cannot go to sleep at night without talking to each other. You know, I mean, and we've got like 20, you know, in that group. So you guys are part of that. So I just think that there's nothing more valuable that we could do than to be there for each other. Just like we can't preach going to Arkana, we can't like say, hey, Joni, you better call me every night. You know, it's got to happen in the right space. But just being around each other is so special because of how different it is than what's going on in the world. You know, so that's one of the things that I'm most grateful for. And what I can tell you is that the breakthroughs that I'm making from ayahuasca and all my experiences are happening later on. They're happening more now than they did. So, you know, I was listening to you speak, Ty. Like, I remember when I gave that my testimonial, like, I was like, wow, like, you know, I was like shooting lightning out of my hands and stuff. That was part of it. But like a year from now, from that experience, you might just be like, find yourself levitating in the corner, you know? So it just keeps getting better and better and better, which makes me realize that, you know, I'm kind of thinking I want to go once a year. And another thing is when I'm going to probably go in December, but I'm not attached to like this idea of going and doing shots of ayahuasca. I'm going to let that happen the way it happens. You know what I mean? Like I've skipped drinking on a night, you know, it's like that. Who knows that'll happen, but I know that I'm going to put myself in the arena of play and see what happens. What were we going to say, Joni?
I was going to ask if you're going to go to Cusco, if you're going to go to Sacred Valley.
You know, if I had my way, I would do 1 week in the jungle and 1 week in Sacred Valley. But you know, the way I make that decision is based on my friends, you know, because I have this group, you know, like I have this guy, I'm a heterosexual man, but if I was gay, my buddy Adam would be my husband. So I always check with Adam first, you know, and Adam's from Australia and he'll be like, we're going to the jungle, mate. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do that.
Well, I'm your friend, and I think you should go the first week of December to the Sacred Valley.
Oh, is that when you're going?
Because I'm going to be there.
Aren't you?
Yeah.
Were you the one aren't you going to do some facilitation?
Yeah. Well, I'm going on my own.
Is that when you start?
No, that's not when I'm going on my own second retreat in the Sacred Valley the first week of December. And then I'm taking off all of December just to hang out in Cusco. And then I start facilitating in the jungle, January, first week of January.
Cool. Well, what I can tell you is that is definitely an option because I've never been to the Sacred Valley. So I love that idea. By the way, Jose is saying, what is he doing? Is he like trying to FaceTime me right now? This is so funny. I don't know. He's trying to connect with me through his iPad or something like that. Didn't work. It didn't work. All right, guys. Love and appreciate you. Oh, Luna, go ahead before we leave.
I just wanted to say real quick because Ty said something very nice. I think it was very beautiful. For those that are fear, you know, that have fear because they don't know what plant medicine is yet.
Right.
Ty say, and this is something that Mother Ayahuasca does, and I call her Mother Ayahuasca. Some people call her Grandma. I think is what we like in the most is what we call her. But Ty say ayahuasca shows you. I mean, it gives you the opportunity to be the protagonist of your own movie because that's basically what it does for us. It shows us, you know, it how do you call it? You know, that part of us. You know, it shows you a reflection of you, and it allows us to be the protagonist of our own movie in that sense. So to guide us in the right direction. So fear not. And one thing that I heard, and I'm just speaking in my experience, I'm petite, you know, and I just decided to go because I said, okay, I'm just grabbing it because I heard the second video that I heard, it says, ayahuasca finds you. So for me, I heard it and I said, okay, I'm going. So, I mean, I'm not saying encourage you to do that. I'm saying just listen to your heart. Don't listen to what other people say about it. Just listen to you. And if that moment, you know, is the moment that you're meant to go, don't be afraid. You know, you can only live there. At least if something that I feel we all grab there is to have authentic power, you know, from that point on, you know, make decisions for yourself, you know, and finding your own way, not like, you know, this, I want to do this because somebody else, you know, just finding you. So that's what I wanted to contribute to that.
And so I love hearing people speak like that, but I always wonder if like my buddies that hang out at the bar down the street would understand that. They'd be like, what did she say? Say, like, you're not ready for that yet. I'll leave you guys with this. One of the things that I'm very big on my morning routine, and I've been doing that for 18 years, and I have a very structured morning routine, and I do some affirmations. And one of them that I added to it is I remind myself all the time that I am love. Because I think one of a great intention for us is to be a light for the world, right? Rather than expect the reverse. So what's interesting is you can write the word beloved, beloved, beloved down. And if you separate it, it says be loved. Right. So that's what I feel like when I'm with you guys. And that's what I'm going to consciously work on is being who I am, and that is love, with the intention of maybe lighting a candle for others, you know? So you guys are fucking amazing people, man. So I waited to the end to swear. Love you guys. Have an amazing time. And we'll get this party going in the right direction next month. We'll find out what's going on with Jose and his iPad. Have a great weekend. Thanks for being here.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.